Hello. Welcome back to Scrollies. Today is a very special day in the world of the DK Revolution, and we will be getting into that shortly. But I am Squat Cobbler, and I am joined by my co-host.
It's me, Rat. Squat, I don't want to... It's me, Neeks. Okay, for this week, I'm Neeks. I tried to talk him out of it, you guys. It's Donkey Kong. I'll let Squat get it. It's me. I'm Neeks this week. Other weeks, I'm known as Ratnado.
Look, I understand, but we gotta keep the branding specific. Even though I call you Neeks on the daily, in the DMs, in the DK Revolution circles, most people don't know that that's an enemy in the Donkey Kong Country series that happens to be rat-like, and most people know you as Ratnado. So I'm trying to keep the listeners, I don't want that coming out of left field and scaring them away.
Yeah, I didn't want them to know. It feels... Whatever, it's great. Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Ratnado. I'm here. Ratneeks.
Ratneeks. Everyone, today we're going to be talking about a very polarizing game, I'd say. It has its detractors, it has its fans, but none more so than our guest today, who, I won't say it for him, but let's just say this game is very special to him. Everyone, welcome Kleeby Splurknurch to the Scrollies podcast.
Hey! What's up, everyone?
First, Kleeb, before I get into it, I kind of have with my stream and kind of with Scrollies too. There's a saying that we like to meme things into dreams, okay? We meme about it, and then it actually happens. And so I remember when Squat's like, hey, I wonder if we ever asked Kleeb to be on. I wonder if he'd actually do it. And we started memeing about it, like, oh man, dude, imagine. And I just want to say that this meme has become a dream, and now we have the Kleeb stream supreme.
Ooh.
It rhymed. I've been working on that for a week since he said, "Oh yeah, Kleeb will do it."
He had that ready to go. We had to let him do it.
That's awesome.
Good to have you, Kleeby. Good to have you. I know you have a lot of thoughts about this game, and I certainly do as well. I can't wait to get into them. But before we do that, Kleeby, what was your first Donkey Kong Country game?
Actually, it was Donkey Kong Country 1.
Oh.
It got released back in 1994. November 1994. Because I know that all three titles from DKC 1 to 3, they were all released in November.
Yes. In fact, they were all released almost on the same day. One day apart between
oh, really?
parts 1 and 2 and 3. Yeah, I think they were trying to do the same day for all three of them, though. Maybe something like that.
Consistent.
I'm surrounded by Donkey Kong people, okay, guys. This is great. I'm gonna learn so much.
The revolution is strong on this podcast today. Well, that's news to me, Kleeb. Please tell me what your experience was like playing DKC in November '94 or shortly thereafter.
Actually, I didn't play Donkey Kong Country. It was my uncle who played Donkey Kong Country. It was back in '94. We had a family trip to a place called Laguna. It's a province south of Metro Manila.
Okay, in the Philippines, yes.
I didn't want to go.
Family trips are boring. They're long.
Yeah.
It's hot in the car or the plane, I understand.
Mm-hmm. And that meant compromising my time watching cartoons because I was a huge Cartoon Network fan at the time.
Naturally.
Understandable.
Yeah, no Dexter's Laboratory, no Johnny Bravo, and all that.
All the classics.
So I cried all the way to Laguna.
Oh. You really didn't want to go on this trip.
Yeah, it was a night trip.
Yeah, that's even worse. You just want to sleep.
Yeah.
And not even a Game Boy to keep you company.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, we arrived at a family house and I cried myself to sleep because no cable there.
Oh, you're breaking my heart, Kleeb.
Yeah, and I woke up the next morning and it turned out my uncle brought his Super Nintendo with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Nice.
No Cartoon Network, no problem. We got SNES.
That's right.
And as a 4-year-old, I never understood what was going on in the game because what was going through my mind at that time was, this isn't Super Mario. I'm so used to Super Mario. My mom introduced me to Super Mario as a child, and she showed me all the secrets. She was a pro at it. She was an NES person, so basically she played Super Mario and Castlevania.
Ooh, those are tough ones.
Mm-hmm.
Castlevania especially.
You've already made you've won Squat's heart already. I mean, you already did with the Donkey Kong. Now it's like triple.
That's Side Scrolly's cred.
Yeah. All I remember from that moment when my uncle was playing Donkey Kong Country 1 was the K. Rool battle.
Yes.
So he was already towards the end of the game. And that's all I have for my childhood. And I never got interested until I started streaming again back in 2021. 20 plus years.
Jeez, man. That's a pretty long time to take a break from DK.
So there. But when I started streaming again, I figured, why not play Donkey Kong Country again? Because I got too familiar and comfortable with Donkey Kong Country 3 that I guess it's time to tread unfamiliar ground and go with Donkey Kong Country 2 first.
Yes!
Yeah, I streamed that last 2021, so that platformer is close to my heart.
Yeah.
Likewise.
Yeah, I remember last year when I first started watching you, you were going through 3, I believe, right? Isn't that right?
Yeah.
Scott? You played 3 last year around this time.
I actually always play 3.
every year, right?
Yeah, the thing about Donkey Kong Country 3 is that I always play it after finishing an RPG too early into the stream. Yeah, so it's my cool down game. Like for instance, Legend of Dragoon. Oh, we finished it just 1 hour into the stream. What do we do next?
we go to Reliable.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. I do remember that now.
Well, all right, there you go. That's a surprise to me. I wasn't expecting that to be Kleeb's first, or for there to be such a long span of time between play sessions. But there you go. Ratnado, how about yourself? What was your first encounter with the DK of the Sea?
Mine was probably a bit around the time. When would I encounter? I mean, I've talked about it a little bit. Mine was also Donkey Kong Country. I had older brothers who had jobs, had disposable income. And I believe that might have been a gift or they borrowed it, but Donkey Kong Country as well. And remembering back, I did have kind of like a weird history with Donkey Kong, much like Sonic, where I don't remember playing the games that much, but there were like books. You know, like not quite a novel, but like a kid's novel, I guess. And it had like the art printed on. I mean, I'm sure I could go find it if I looked around. And it was the novelization of Donkey Kong Country.
I'm not aware of this. You'll need to go find that and share it. This is a relic of the DK Revolution. It needs to be preserved.
I'll see if I can find it. I'm sure it's in like a box, packed away very deep. And so that's my first. I played Donkey Kong Country 2 probably in 96, 97, whenever that came out, with one of my best buddies, Randy. He lived across the street. And I've talked about that too. I've like, this one time we got up at like 4 or 5 a.m. because he slept over. He came across. He's just right across the street. And we got to K. Rool at the end of that game, and we sat there for like 2 hours just like trying to get it. We were, we're little kids, but pretty good memory. He was really good at it, and I was just kind of okay.
As it goes. There weren't sub-menus to scroll through. You had to press the right buttons at the right time to attack.
Yeah, that's the problem. I think they should have numbers. I think there should be some stats. A DK RPG, that's how you get me into the Fold Squad. That's how you get me in Fold more.
That may be what draws me into the numbers game Fold. Nintendo, if you're listening, that's all it takes. That's all it takes. You have the power to make it happen. Just saying. So as for myself, I'll try and be brief.
Yeah.
Because I think I've gone over this before.
Oh boy.
My introduction to the DK Revolution did not happen in the 90s. Did not happen in the era of Rare under Nintendo. In fact, my first experience with any Donkey Kong character was on the GBA, Donkey Kong Jr. Played through the e-reader, an oft-forgotten accessory that loaded games on via scannable cards, kind of a proto-amiibo, I guess, in a way.
First episode, I remember. I
know myself had it, and I'm sure about a half dozen other people in my 100-mile proximity had it as well. But yeah, we never got a chance to meet up and talk about it. So just want to shout out the e-reader. But then McButcher one day came home with an N64, and I thought, oh boy, this is a video game I can play on the TV, and I don't have to hold under a streetlight to see the screen.
Yeah.
Little did I know, at this time, the GameCube had been released. It was still pretty new, but it was out. McButcher was probably getting a steep discount on the N64, and he knew that we wouldn't know any better, so sure enough, he brought it home, and one of the games he brought it home with was DK3. So I believe, memory's a little hazy, it all kind of blends together, but I believe this was my first experience with Rare's Donkey Kong series, which led to me mistakenly thinking this was the case. Donkey Kong Country 2 was my first DKC game, and in the prologue of it, they talk about how difficult it was to gain back all the bananas in the last game, because it breaks the fourth wall in that way. Now, me, being young, thinks this is referring to DK64, because I had played that first.
Yeah.
And it had come out, relatively recently on the GBA, because that's the console that I had. So I think I knew there was a game called Donkey Kong Country 1, or there was a game preceding it, because it had DKC2 on the box, so I knew it was a 2, I knew it was a sequel, but I didn't care. I was happy to play it. It had Diddy, my favorite Kong, in it, and some girl Kong who kind of looked like Diddy but was pink and had a banana on her head, I guess.
Right?
Not really.
Oh,
No.
but I see her her hair. I was like, I believe it's pronounced beret, Squad.
Yeah, I was a kid. I didn't know cultured terms such as these. So I played it to my heart's content. I loved it. I don't think I ever beat DKC2, but I had it on the GBA, and I actually never went back and played DKC1, even though I knew it existed through friends as well on that console, until about 10 years later when I was in high school. I played the SNES version when I was 18 for the first time. So that was that. And then a year later, I saw in Hollywood Video, in its last days, I guess, shortly thereafter, Netflix rose to prominence, but they were still around, and we still went there. So I saw a new game on display, Donkey Kong Country 3, coming to GBA. I said, oh yeah, that's the sequel to that one that I played last year. So sure enough, I picked it up when it came out on GBA, brand new. I beat that one. That was the only one that I completed as a kid. I beat the final boss. And sure enough, the rest is history. The DK Revolution lived on and on until this day.
Long enough to make Mooncat Gab cry.
Not long enough to make Mooncat Gab cry. She did, unlike Sam and Kleeby, she did play the GBA version. My childhood experience lived out before me again. I could vicariously re-experience it, except it didn't quite go that way, because at the beginning of World 2, Hothead Hop.
Yeah, she's not an experienced scrollies like me, like Squat, and most of all, Kleeb. Kleeb, you're like cleaning through these anytime I've seen you play them, man.
Oh yeah, it's Donkey Kong Country is essentially my comfort game. Really, like my go-to. Like again, like I said earlier, after clearing every single RPG early on in the stream, I just load it up and just do whatever. And recently, to somehow mitigate the excessive comfort, I did play a ROM hack.
Yes.
Donkey Kong Country 3, where they made all the levels harder. The placements of all the obstacles, the placement of the bonus barrels, the DK coins. It was just a nightmare.
I mean, I think we've heard, I don't know if they quite call that a Kaizo, right? Is that classified as Kaizo? I feel like I asked Code that as well.
I'm not so sure. I think Kaizo level would be like those Mario Maker things.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
games.
Yeah, does that term extend to other games? I don't know. Code Synth, we need you to clarify. Let us know. Now, that really speaks volumes that for someone like Kleeb, DKC is a comfort game, and for someone like Mooncat Gab, it's a rage cry game. That really speaks volumes. We can talk about the entire series all we want, but today's notable. Today is a very special day because DKC3 was released 26 years ago today, November 22nd, 1996, in North America. So we're here to celebrate this game because I admittedly had a missed opportunity last year. I was on a short hiatus from streaming, and unlike the year before where I celebrated the simultaneous anniversaries, 10 years and 25 years for DKC Returns and Donkey Kong Country 2 respectively, I missed the chance for DKC3, so we're going to highlight that today, and who better to do that with than Kleeben Splurknerch. Kleeben, this game, Donkey Kong Country 3, is very dear to you, isn't it?
It is. It is very.
Would you even say that it is your favorite of the series?
Oh yeah, it is. It is, definitely.
It is. Undoubtedly, indisputably. I hate to break it to you, Kleeby, but I feel like that's an unpopular opinion. Are you aware of this?
Yeah. I understand completely why.
Yeah.
At this point.
I played it with Squad a little bit last year, I believe, during my 24-hour stream, and I was like, it's pretty good. I like it. But I feel like the music, and maybe just because I don't have 20 years of history with it, but I was like, this music doesn't feel as iconic to me until he did the Christmas time music.
Yes. For those of you that don't know, DKC3 is a Christmas game if you input the secret code Merry on the start menu. So yeah, it's I feel like it's kind of the black sheep of the original trilogy, and I think there are reasons for that, both developmentally and just based on when it came out. My favorite game is always going to be DKC2 of that original series. I think that just was the pinnacle of Rare's work on the Super Nintendo. It was really firing on all cylinders on every aspect. However, it does have some issues, and we will get into that, and I think DKC3 improved on some of those. DKC3's development was handled by the B team at Rare, because the others who had worked on DKC1 and 2 had pretty much moved on to the N64, because it came out the same year as DKC3, 1996. So it was a late release title for the Super Nintendo. Released after the N64 was out, and in fact, there's a little Easter egg in there. You can see Wrinkly Kong in the save cave playing on the N64, and there's a hidden track where you hear the Mario 64 Peach's Castle theme remixed within 16-bit sound font.
Save. Oh my god! Didn't that sound like? What? Dude, I'm so happy. Yeah, right. This is blind for me, so I didn't ever. That is sweet. That is sweet. So this game came out after Super Mario 64. It's a nice Easter egg.
Wow, that's a new one on me.
It's good stuff. But even though it didn't involve a lot of the original people, even though it had different composers than David Wise, even though Chris Sutherland and a lot of those people who really were the creative visions on the original two had moved on to other projects, I think they really still brought a unique personality and some charm to DKC3 that still shines through and is reflected in unique ways that the other two don't really capture. Now, Kleeby, with this being your favorite of the trilogy, who better to highlight some of this game's triumphs than yourself? Do you think that this game does things better than the first two?
One notable thing that DKC3 does that the other two don't shine on is basically the overworld.
Absolutely, the map.
Yeah.
The little select map.
The idea that you had the freedom to use a motorboat or whatever other medium to travel from island to island, that is huge to me. Although, during my first experience of Donkey Kong Country 3, I was already used to... With DKC 1, you started right at the start of the level, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And with DKC 3, as a child, as a 6-year-old child, I never understood the concept of, hey, what is this? Why don't I start at the very first level immediately?
Yeah.
Why does it show Dixie jumping from a cliff? Yeah, jumping into the water, and what is this?
Is this the game? Is this what the game looks like?
Where are the bananas? And yeah,
Where banana?
Where banana?
The conflict of the plot of the DKC trilogy. Where banana?
Mm-hmm. I didn't realize the beauty of the overworld until I was much older.
Yeah, that was a huge thing for me. Like, I'm used to classic DKC 1, DKC 2, and I thought that was pretty cool. Like, just the ability to, like, and I mean, I'm sure we'll get into it, but the other things that end up happening with that really, like, opened it up, and for the time, that was different. That was very different, especially for the SNES era.
For sure. I don't know if I'd call it RPG-like. It's got an isometric view, but it's not just kind of a neat gimmick. It's actually got some really cool Easter eggs that you can discover in the world, and non-linearity. You can do some worlds before other worlds based on the fact that it is essentially an open world, as small as it is. The level select screen, you can go out of order. You can, go back and visit Funky. You can basically travel around this region, the Northern Hemisphere. The overworld map is very unique in that sense. Really, there's nothing quite like it in the rest of the series, and even in a lot of other non-RPG titles. Mario kind of has the same, just, follow a grid to the next level and then select it. And DKC 1 and 2 are much the same way. You're going around, you're doing them in order, and a huge highlight in my mind that's kind of spawns from having the open area to travel around is the save system is significantly, undeniably better in DKC3 than the first two. DKC1, you got to play until you reach Candy's save barrel, and then you can jump in and save whenever. That's all well and good. And then you move on to the next world, and you got to do it all over again. Now, there's a bit of a trick to go back and save early if you happen to reach a certain point. When you beat the boss, you don't have to go right to the next world right away. You can go back to the previous world, save it with Candy again, and then jump in Funky's barrel, fly to the next world, and then alternatively, when you're in the next world, if you reach Funky before Candy, you can fly back and yada yada. It's a little obtuse, it's a little overly complicated, but it allows you to save not whenever you want, but often enough.
Yeah.
I'd say it got downgraded in DKC 2 because it's much the same way. However, you have to pay to save after the first time with the in-game collectible currency, which is just baffling. That wasn't a thing on the GBA version, so when I went back and played the SNES version, I mean, I'm not going to say the GBA version's better. It had a lot of added content, but that was,
Let's just say it gave you a lot of control over your saves. Would you agree? Would you agree with that, Kleeb?
Yeah. Pretty much gave you control over everything.
I got him to say it.
The portability allowed for control of the save system. Yes, indeed. But in DKC3, SNES, and I think carried over in a way to the GBA ports, you could just, if you needed to save, if you had to, switch the channel over so Dad could watch sports or, go to school, you didn't have to play up until the point where you reached Wrinkly. You could just literally walk out of the level select area and then ride your hovercraft on back down to the initial Wrinkly save cave and just save. And then that's it. Didn't cost any money. It was open to you at all times. It was great. That's. I think the only thing that really would have been more convenient than that is autosave, but that wasn't really a thing on Super Nintendo. So we won't knock her for that.
Yeah, I mean, that's very ahead of time. That's, 1997, 98, 99 or something like that? That's pretty ahead of its time.
For sure. Now, with these two things, you think, oh, okay, so it brought some quality of life improvements. It brought a little bit of creativity with the overworld. But Kleeben, would you say that there's some collectathon elements added to DKC3 more so than the first two?
Definitely. From the bonus coins to the DK coins as well, full of coins, and the banana birds.
Mm-hmm.
Each level had at least 2 bonus barrels where you can collect 2 bonus coins per level, as well as a DK coin.
Yep.
Yeah. All of these bonus coins have a purpose, because the second area of the Northern Hemisphere, you had Mechanos, you had the other island, you have those 2 levels, and then for some reason you had a pile of rocks right next to Mechanos. It was only during 2 years after I got DKC3 that I figured out how to unlock the secret level.
Really?
And all the bonus coins that you collect will amount to unlocking a lot of the levels of Krematoa.
That's right.
The hidden island.
Yeah. That's sort of a carryover from DKC2 The Lost World. You brought them to Kleeby and you unlocked his toll bridge to go to the Lost World. But likewise, he was just on the map. He was just in the level select. You didn't have to discover it. So, I mean, it was a Lost World, but it wasn't hidden. It was just out of reach by way of paywall, a literal paywall, basically. Super Nintendo equivalent of it. Krematoa, I mean, you said a pile of rocks. How do you unlock Krematoa, Kleeben?
You circle around the rocks counterclockwise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then it rises from the depths like Atlantis. Those collectibles, Kleeben, have a lot of in-game usage, but also there are side quests if you want to call it that, given to you by the Brothers Bear.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. If I remember right, you go around levels, and hidden within levels are usually at the end, but sometimes hidden within levels are little knickknacks, little trinkets that you can bring back to these NPCs and unlock stuff, new pathways, new not new abilities. But Kleeby, remind me, do you need the Brothers Bear to get the 2 skis for the hovercraft upgrade?
Oh,
or is that something you reach the end of the world by?
you get 1 ski from Cotton Top Cove and the other from Mechanos.
Okay, so those are based on completed worlds. Gotcha. Okay.
That's how you get the turbo ski to get to the 3rd area.
Go up waterfalls. Yeah, so I mean these are things in a side-scrolling Super Nintendo game from 1996. These I wouldn't call them like RPG elements, but they're really advanced inclusions considering that all they had to do was make another platforming game that lived up to the potential of DKC 1 and 2. And we can talk about that in a second if the levels and the general feel of the game it reaches those heights in that same way. But they really didn't have to go as hard as they did in the ways they did. They could have just done more of the same, and I think it would have been enough. But they introduced these creative additional elements to the game that really made it feel unique, and I think also contributes to why it feels so different in a lot of people's minds, looking back today. Now, the game is different. It's got a very different set of enemies than the first 2. It's got a very different setting than the first 2. It doesn't take place on DK Island or Crocodile Isle. It takes place in the Northern Crebosphere, enemy territory, but also kind of wild, wilderness. For me, I feel it works. I didn't really have an issue with it as a kid, and even today I don't. I think, if anything, the biggest difference for me comes from the music. I think the music feels like a bit of a different style than the one that David Wise introduced in 1 and 2. The composer Evelyn Fisher, she was involved in DKC 1. She wrote a lot of tracks there, like Simian Segway, Ice Cave Chant, and Treetop Tumble, among her work. She composed DKC3 entirely. That was all her. And I think a lot of tracks from her style really suit that game and really suit that tone. But it just feels different than David Wise's style and tracks, I would say. How about you, Kleeby?
Well, with Donkey Kong Country 1 and Donkey Kong Country 2, I guess my most favorite tracks from those games are, of course, with Donkey Kong Country 1, Underwater theme.
Ooh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and also the Blackout Basement theme. It's
Yep.
it's pretty boppy. Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
Something like that. And then Donkey Kong Country 2, since I got stuck in Toxic Tower for hours. The theme of Carol's Keep just stuck with me.
Yep. Yeah.
There. And I think they're masterpieces.
Oh yeah.
They have huge recall. That's why they're my favorites. I always gravitate towards themes that have really good recall.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And as for Donkey Kong Country 3, like since I played that during my formative years, all tracks were just equally loved by me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I think. Sorry, everyone. I'm kind of just sitting here and like I'm sipping some tea and listening to these guys just talk about Donkey Kong Country. Partly because I have a little less to give in, but also I'm just waiting. You guys. Kleeby has notes. Like he actually has. He prepared so well for this. It's like, but yeah, no. I think that to what you're saying, Kleeby. That 100%, like I grew up on DKC1. Like my brother, he was into like all kinds of music, like at the time, like not just like popular music. My oldest brother, he was into like European pop and like Enigma and like all these like kind of 90s-ish things that are like more, I guess, like what you call electronica and things like that, and all trance, all this other kind of stuff. And so, and I was like surprised when he got so into like DKC1 for that reason of like Fear Factory. That like he loved that, and he also had like the Immortals, the Mortal Kombat soundtrack. I don't know if you guys ever heard that.
Was that from the film?
No,
it was specifically like these like Norwegian DJs who like took it, and so you know the one that everybody knows, the like that one, that's them.
The one you play on the rave floor.
Yeah, there's a whole album of it though, and if you haven't, sorry, this isn't DK related, but go check it out, The Immortals Mortal Kombat, and go listen to the Sub-Zero song. Anyways, sorry, back to you guys. I just wanted to put that in there.
We've officially filled our Mortal Kombat quota for our DKC episode, so those of you that were clamoring for it, there you go, you got it.
I have it on one tab.
I didn't mean to go there. It just ended there.
Hey, it's okay. It's all right. I mean, Kleeby, you're a music guy. Like, the differences in style between DKC 1-2 and DKC 3, I think, are to its benefit, but also play a part in separating it from the discussion when people talk about, like, you know, the iconic Donkey Kong music or the music you want to put on loop, the playlist. Maybe it's just because it doesn't sound as good on its own, or maybe it's because it's so tuned to the levels that it's, you know, it's meant for that. But like Waterworld in DKC 3, the Sawmill theme in DKC 3, I feel like those both really complement those levels and that tone that they were going for.
I think with Donkey Kong Country 3, they were going for a horror type theme.
Yeah.
Because with how Donkey Kong Country 3's underwater level theme goes, it sounds like there's a menacing tone to it, basically. Yeah. And with Donkey Kong Countries 1 and 2, what I could notice is that they're going for a soothing and calming vibe. Yeah, it's kind of like you're going to the sea just to escape the troubles of what's happening on land, essentially.
Sticker Brush Symphony is so opposite the feeling I feel when I'm there. The music, relaxing, calming, pensive. The actual level, anxiety-inducing. For me, anyway.
I think that's understandable. That's you might have a company in that, right? You know. Fun fact: I'm talking about this on the David Wise episode, so I won't get too into it. But Sticker Brush Symphony originally composed as a water level theme and almost cut from the game because they didn't have a need for it until they put in the Bramble stages. So, music aside, I feel like, you know, the tonality is kind of what separates it, but also Kleeby and Rat, I think we'd be remiss to not discuss, I think, the most polarizing aspect of Donkey Kong Country 3, the character of Kiddy Kong. Now I know he has his fans. And Kleeby winced a little bit when I said that. I'm not going to badmouth Kiddy. I think... So here's where I think Kiddy came from conceptually. In DKC 1, you had your heavy in DK, and you had your light and nimble Diddy. They were complementary. Each of them could do things the other couldn't. Each of them had their usage, and having them both was great because you could swap on the fly, and having only one of them was a hindrance because they wouldn't be able to do everything. You lost DK in DKC2, but he got replaced by Dixie Kong, which still complementary. They both have kind of their own style and their own feel, but Dixie, I think, is often preferred as the better character because of her helicopter spin and her floatier jump. They lose the heavy, but the game is kind of designed around that to where you don't really need the heavy character to traverse and to battle certain enemies because there are other ways to, you know, fight them with barrels or with special moves. In DKC 3, they were building upon the extra mechanics such as the buddy throw and the barrel placements and the barrel toss that I think adding the heavy back in the form of Kiddy was maybe not as necessary, but it also allowed for a lot more versatility, especially when it came to team throw. You could reach really high heights by throwing Dixie, or you could create a slam on the ground and break through breakable objects with Kiddy. Likewise, you could ride Kiddy like he was a barrel by throwing him against the wall and then jumping on him and letting him roll through, taking out enemies. That being said, I think on their own, just in terms of swapping back and forth between them, I always found myself holding on to Dixie just because I was used to her from DKC2, and I just think that she controlled better, and the compliments that she provided outweighed the ones that Kiddy provided as the heavy. Now, Kleeby, you might think differently, but that's just my take from having played all three of them and from understanding the dichotomy that the two playable characters bring to each title.
Not gonna lie, the first time I experienced Donkey Kong Country 3, it was back in 96. It was for Christmas. My mom allowed me to go with her to the video game store. Pick whatever game you want, she says. Any SNES game. And I saw I had to choose between Donkey Kong Country 2 and Donkey Kong Country 3.
Which number was bigger?
The storekeeper was pushing for me to buy the latest game.
Yeah,
Of course.
Yeah.
Buy the latest game. Here, new release, Donkey Kong Country 3.
It makes sense. We'd all do the same.
But think how different your life would be right now, Kleeb, if you would pick 2. You probably wouldn't be here right now. You wouldn't be on this podcast.
You'd be a whole different person.
Oh, exactly.
You still would. Squat would have tracked you down and found you, I'm sure.
He wouldn't be the vocal minority proponent of 3. He'd be the content majority DKC2 lover. as I think is the majority of the fan base. But nonetheless.
So I got DKC3. The box, opened it up, got the cartridge, and I noticed that where's Donkey Kong? How could this be called Donkey Kong when Donkey Kong isn't even on the cover?
That's a good point.
Yeah. Not gonna lie, I got really disappointed. I didn't like the concept of a baby Kong going alongside Dixie, a really functional Kong with a helicopter, and Kiddy Kong's basically your copycat Donkey Kong who cries each time he gets hit by anything at all.
And a loud tantrum cry, not a Dixie Kong. Ow, I got a boo boo cry.
Yes, exactly.
Which came first? What was it? Baby Mario or
Kitty? It would have been Baby Mario because I think Yoshi's Island came out a few months before DKC1. In fact, there's a whole story about that. That was originally going to be a DK game, but that's a whole other discussion in and of itself. So Baby Mario came first and brought the crying anxiety to a generation of gamers.
And then eventually the idea of Kiddy Kong just grew on me 2 years later. And the annoying part of him crying just stuck with me. And I saw it charming instead of annoying.
Do you think that had to do with how he played and how the mechanics that he brought to the table, or was it more the personality that he had and the character design?
First with the personality, and then when I got older, I realized how functional he was. Probably even a lot more functional than Dixie, in such that he could traverse ropes a lot faster than Dixie. Yeah. He could
upper body strength.
He could bounce on water as well.
I can never pull that off, but it's really cool when you learn the trick.
Yeah, you have to practice it.
Yeah, it's like skipping stones. You reach these high platforms. Oh my gosh!
I used to spend hours before just practicing it.
Yeah,
just to reach this, because you have to use it to reach a certain bonus barrel. So it is an essential skill to have in DKC3
if you want to complete it. That's right. I feel like there's just a lot of added technique in DKC3 compared to the first two, and that is what's made it grow on me in recent years. I kind of I loved it as a kid. It was the only one I beat as a kid, but I did kind of feel like reintroducing myself to the series through the SNES games. Yeah, 1 and 2 are great. 3 is, it's fine. It's not bad, but it's not incredible. But in recent years, the more I've given it just a chance. I haven't fully played through the SNES version to completion yet, or even to the final boss. But playing through it, those early levels, I'm like, yeah, there's a lot here that's building upon what the first 2 games introduced and adding to it in really cool and creative ways. Kitty, notwithstanding.
Yeah, Kleeb, what is it about 3 exactly? We've talked about kind of some of the difference between the games, but overall, what do you get out of 3 specifically? What do you look at a casual DKC2 enjoyer like me versus, let's say, a Giga Chad DKC3 enjoyer? What is the feeling that you get from it?
Well, the thing that gets me comfortable about DKC3 is the satisfaction that you get whenever you collect every bonus barrel. You collect every DK coin, you interact with all these bears, giving you all these key items for you to unlock certain caves, to pick up all the banana birds in existence, to eventually unlock the ultimate ending, which is kind of anticlimactic.
It's trippy.
It's trippy. Yeah.
Spoiler alert for DKC3. 26 years old today, but you've been warned. You meet the deity banana bird mom in the sky who lays an egg on K. Rool, defeating him once and for all.
Finally.
Hi.
Yeah, it's bizarre. It's no DKC2 ending islands sinking into the ocean with dramatic lighting and K. Rool sailing off on a raft, but it's definitive, I guess. The heroes win at the end, so.
That was really unexpected. The first time I got to see the Banana Bird mother, that's really trippy.
Like, what the heck is this? There were some weird character designs in the 90s. I'll just leave it at that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Kleeb, I know this isn't the topic, but would you say that you have that collectathon itch that you need scratched when you play a game, or is it just with DKC3 in particular that you feel satisfied getting every collectible and getting out 103% completion?
I realized that it started with DKC3, my knack for completionist stuff. Because, of course, when you're streaming, you don't really get to 100% everything, because that takes time.
Yeah.
Like, that'll take, for instance, for Final Fantasy VII, that'll take you 20 plus streams, or 30 at the most, to complete everything.
Yeah.
So my completionist tendencies tend to happen off stream. For instance, with Hollow Knight, with Symphony of the Night, and a lot more other games. But the best thing about DKC3, you can just 103 or 105, depending on the difficulty that you want. You can do that in one stream. It's really satisfying to do that.
He's a natural speedrunner of DKC3 in a sense. 100% category. Well, 103% in this case, which is a unique, rare thing. See what I did there? Now, as we're here on the anniversary, the 26th year of DKC3's introduction to this world, I just thought we'd take a moment, as we're here, and appreciate the additions that it brought to the series, the unique things that it did, and really pushing its hardware to the limit for the Super Nintendo in a time when just about everyone else was moving on to the N64. They were all about those 3D graphics, those polygons, and those wide open worlds. But this small team at Rare that was sticking behind on the Super Nintendo for one last game really just wanted to go out with a bang and do as much as they could on that system. So I think for that reason, DKC3 should be remembered. It should be looked back on and appreciated more than it has. And I think in recent years, it has been getting more recognition than it did back in the day, which is very good in my mind.
Yeah, that's why we have Twitch as a platform, so people can recognize a lot more of these games. I mean, to this day, I'm still discovering a lot of retro games that I missed out on back then.
Yeah. Yep.
Shout out Twitch, shout out YouTube, shout out the internet at large for giving that platform to people who want to highlight these things. Such as Scrolly's podcast, which you're listening to right now. All right, everybody. I think we are going to be wrapping things up there. Kleeby, thank you so much for coming on Scrollies. Please tell the people listening where they can check out your work and your stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, you can check me out at twitch.tv/Kleeben_Splurknerch. That is KLEEBEN_SPLURKNURCH.
There you go.
I was gonna say, hey, listener, if you can't find it, DM Squatter me, and we'll personally guide you there. Okay, we'll take your hand and we'll guide you to the stream.
Exactly. We'll make sure we look both ways when we cross the street to get there. You can also find it linked down below.
I want to say thank you so much for coming on, Kleeb and Splurkners. You guys, I knew Kleeb was really cool. He came in a raid. I think Samson ID, shout out Samson ID.
Yeah, shout out Sam.
Shout out Sam.
Raided me while I was playing, I think it was Chibi Robot on the advice of, again, shout out Loriocalypse. And I remember we were talking about Kingdom Hearts because I think somebody was playing it at the time. We were talking about it, and I was like, yeah, what did you guys pick? And I remember I asked Shraxa, Samsonite, and Kleeb were there, and I was like, this is kind of nerdy, you guys. Did you pick wand, shield, or sword? And everyone's like, sword! And I remember, you know what? I picked shield because I'm a good goof trooper. And Kleeb was like, I picked shield too! And I was like, yes! A kindred spirit!
Gosh.
Shield. I'm a huge fan of the defense stat.
Yeah.
That's why. That's what gets you through RPGs sometimes.
There you go.
I play things too tanky, so maybe that's where I my downfall is. I was gonna say Kleeby, he streams from Southeast Asia, so he's always been unreliable. Whenever I wake up in the middle of the night and I open the Twitch app on my phone, I usually see like one channel online. Kleeby been live for 6+ hours, and I'm like, all right, I know who I'm watching since I can't fall back asleep.
I appreciate you guys.
Check out Kleeby at all hours, but especially late at night for those of you stateside. All right, we're gonna call it there. Thank you all so much for listening today, and I've been Squat Cobbler of the Scrollies podcast, and I am joined by my co-host.
Yeah, it's me. It's Neeks. Radnado. What's up? Come follow me. Hey, I stream now. Well, my internet's still rough, guys, but I'm trying. Come check it out. I play lots of Final Fantasy 14, and sometimes other stuff too. So
sometimes when he feels like it. And yeah, we will catch you all in the next one. See you later.
And this has been your body, Kleeby Kong from the Kleeb Stream Supreme.
See ya.
The level select screen, you can go out of order. You can go back and visit Funky. You can basically travel around this region, the Northern Hemisphere, and do things out of order. It's you still have to. Hey, it's in the game. Don't laugh.
Squat actually says Cremisphere, you guys. Not just talking about Donkey Kong. And he's like, hey, when are we going to do a Scrollies recording, I don't know, in the Southern Cremisphere? What?
Wait, is that not what it's called?
Oh, Lord.
It is what it's called.
Yeah, Kleeb knows.
Kleeb's got your back. I'm outnumbered.
2-1.